Our new support and resistance indicator not only shows you supports and resistances from multiple time frames on one single time frame, but it also analyzes each support and resistance and grades it on its strength. The applications for this indicator are vast. Ranges, take profits, entries, and exits are all made much clearer with the multi-time frame graded support and resistance indicator. Today, I'll be going over all of the popular applications and strategies, as well as settings for this one-of-a-kind indicator. Applications and strategies. Let's explore all the different creative ways to implement this indicator into your everyday trading. High time frame on low time frame. A common application for the multi-time frame feature is to show higher time frame supports and resistances on lower time frame chart. In general, technical analysis on higher time frames is more reliable than lower time frames. Additionally, price reactions tend to be much more significant when interacting with higher time frame supports and resistances. So what might look like a small pullback or bounce on a high time frame chart will amount to a much bigger move on a lower time frame. With the help of some leverage, you can make some impressive gains with this strategy. It is scalper and day trader dream indicator. Now, this does not mean you should disregard lower time frame supports and resistances. They can play out just as well. The takeaway from this is the more data on your charts, the more points of confluence you have to make your trading decision. Finding ranges. There are multiple approaches to trading ranges when it comes to this tool. The first and most obvious method is to let the indicator find the range for you. This feature can be turned on and off in the settings section. The auto ranges will not only tell you the range in which supports and resistances are being analyzed, but they will also show you the zones in which there is a higher probability of a reversal at the top and bottom of each range between high time frame supports and resistances. Another great way to find the range is to only use the higher time frame supports and resistances. Simply make your entries at the higher time frame supports and resistances and use the lower time frame supports and resistances as your take profit points between strong supports and resistances. Another very useful method to find the range is to filter out the weaker supports and resistances and only trade between the strongest ones. Remember, the lower the number, the stronger the support and resistance. Mix it up. The last and most creative method is to use various different supports and resistances from different time frames and different grades. For example, you can use the one line on the current time frame on the 15-minute, the one line being the strongest graded support and resistance, and a 1 hour support and resistance line as your support. Even though these two support and resistance lines are from different time frames, they are still valid and a good way to find a range. Finding zones. An interesting way to find areas or zones of support and resistance is to use multiple support and resistance lines that are close to each other. The space between the two support and resistance lines can be used as a zone in which the support and resistance line has a probability of reversal. They can be of the same time frame, or even better yet, multiple time frames that form the zone. Sometimes two support and resistance lines from different time frames will be on top of one another. This only reinforces the argument that price could reverse at this point. Confluence between other indicators. Using these supports and resistances in confluence with other indicators will be the most powerful method of utilizing this indicator to its full potential. For example, look how all of the stars align on this reversal. The one line matched perfectly with the golden pocket retracement. Also, the oscillator was showing oversold, a reversal signal, and divergence. Grades are about probabilities. The lower the grade, the higher the probability the support and resistance will hold, respectively. This does not mean that a one line or a 4 hour support and resistance line has to hold. Supports and resistances can hold or they can break, no matter how strong or weak they are. Conversely, just because you see a 10 on the chart does not mean that price will not respect this support and resistance, especially if price has already broken through some higher graded supports and resistances. Implies that price action is losing strength and that it has a higher probability of reversing even at a higher number support and resistance. Never trade on a support and resistance line by itself. Use these support and resistance lines as confluence along with the rest of your analysis. Pick your exchange. Every exchange is essentially its own ecosystem, which means there is going to be different price action in every exchange. Ultimately, this means that supports and resistances may vary depending on the exchange you choose. Multi-mode strategy. Applying different modes on the same time frame can let you see a single time frame through a different lens. Many support and resistance indicators on the market today are only analyzing a certain fixed range, but in our case, we can analyze multiple ranges all at once. For example, we can go to the 1 hour time frame on on the extended setting, and it's not giving us much information to trade off of. So we can add the same time frame again, but on the local setting. And maybe for the third slot, we can add the macro setting. As I'll explain later on in this video, modes will broaden or narrow the range in which the indicator will analyze for supports and resistances. Analyzing 3 different ranges will give you 3 different points of focus throughout the chart, giving you a very dynamic picture of where all of the relevant supports and resistances reside. Configuration. You'll be able to find the multi-time frame graded support and resistance indicator in either the Smart Money Concepts bundle or the Market Oracle. Simply click on how many time frames you want active on your charts, then find the drop-down menu and choose which time frames you want to be shown. Chart refers to the current time frame. Modes. Each mode will broaden or narrow the algorithm's point of focus by expanding or contracting the range. Local mode will give you the smallest range and is great if you're looking for some shorter term trades. Midterm will be the second biggest range and extended the third. Macro mode is the biggest range and will take the entire chart's data into consideration when analyzing for supports and resistances. This mode is great for doing a macro analysis of any particular asset in order to get a better picture of where the long-term macro supports and resistances reside. Perspective mode is very unique and is great if you don't want to be messing around with other modes to find a particular range. This mode will only analyze what is on your screen. This is a dynamic feature and it will auto adjust and recalculate anytime you scroll or zoom in or out. So if you're constantly looking around in your charts, this may not be the mode for you. Max grades. This setting will filter how many resistances you would like to see on your chart. It has a max setting of 10 supports and resistances. This will also filter out weaker supports and resistances if you only want to see the strongest ones. For example, if I put 1, it will only show the strongest support and resistance, which is always marked with a dashed line on the chart. If I put 5, it will show the top 5 strongest supports and resistance on the chart, and so forth until I reach 10 support and resistance lines. Again, 1 is the strongest support and resistance, and 10 is the weakest. Fine tuning. This setting has 3 inputs, 1, 2, and 3. Each input will change how the algorithm finds and grades supports and resistances. 3 is our recommended default setting, but it may be worthwhile playing around with it to find your sweet spot. Aesthetics. The next settings are fairly self-explanatory as they only affect the appearance of the indicator. Width will affect the width of the support and resistance line. By clicking on these color boxes, you can affect the color and transparency of the SR lines as well as the range support zones. The zones checkboxes will show or hide each corresponding time frame zone. Lastly, the number precision controls how many digits you want to show on the support and resistance line. The higher the number, the more digits. This is useful for assets that are worth less than a penny. Check out the links in description for a discount on this indicator and our entire trading suite. This is Alex from Chart Prime, signing out.